Well, all right. Welcome to this presentation for Dr. Ramachandran's class on BA 5351. And I'm Charles Allen. I'm going to be taking you through a few resources you can use. You can do most of your work online. I know that's good news for a lot of people. And we'll get to what we're looking at here in a second, but let's go look at your guide. And this is a guide I've made for the class. And it sort of concentrates all the stuff you're going to need to do your classwork in one place so you don't have to figure it out just by going to the library site. It's not mandatory that you use this, but it's going to help you out a lot. And since we started on the SWOT page, why don't we start with this? So I'm going to go to the tab on that. And a lot of these library resources are things that would cost you a lot of money if you just tried to find them on Google. I'm sure you've all had that problem. So let's talk about SWOTs first of all. And of course you'll notice there's videos embedded in most of this. I won't go through step by step for a lot of this because you can watch the videos. So we've got these different databases. It's recommended that you follow the links so you can get to the database. And the SWOT we were looking at was for Apple. It was from Business Source. So you would click there. And this is where we would have ended up. So SWOT analysis on Apple. You download this as a PDF. It gives you some idea how to interpret what's going on with the Apple computer company. Also on this tab, we've got a few other alternatives: First Research, Market Line Advantage, and Passport. Well, you have multiple ways to do things, but I chose to show you IBIS World for that one. But some of this will tell you other things you can do if you can't find your company there. If you can't find a SWOT analysis for your company, what you probably want to do is go to the SEC's EDGAR database and look up their 10K, and they will have something called risk factors, where they talk about the challenges facing their company. All 10Ks are written the same way, so you get yourself a 2020 Apple 10K, do a Control F for risk factors, and it will let you know what's going on. All right, a little bit about SWOTs, some of your other options for SWOTs. Let's talk about industry surveys, and we talked about this a little bit before. First Research, IBIS World, Market Line Advantage, and Passport. I think the one I have pulled up over here is IBIS World. Let's go to this tab. So we would have gone to IBIS World, and this is going to break down how women's clothing stores in the U.S., what is the competitive landscape associated with this. This really is going to be key to understanding why different companies have different business strategies. So I can't recommend this enough as a place to get started. By the way, I'm doing all of this stuff in more or less the sequential way that I would attempt to research a company. I would look at their industry, I would look at their SWOTs. Only later would I go get the raw numbers of their company financials. The raw numbers aren't going to make too much sense until you look at something like this. Okay, and on the left side of the screen in IBIS World, competitive landscape, this tells you concentration in this industry is low. What are the barriers to entry? Is there a reason concentration is low? Could somebody come in here and change that? These are all things to wonder about on business strategy. So again, you can download all of this. This is the key to dealing with information overload, is you have context. You get a context like this and everything else is going to make sense. So SWOTs and industry surveys is where I would start. Okay, let's go back to your class guide, and more or less we've covered the SWOTs and business plan industry analyses. Let's touch on company financials, talking about raw numbers. And we're going to be using Standard & Poor's for this. It's going to have more information than stuff you'd find on the internet. You definitely don't want to use Yahoo Finance. You just can't do stuff that way. And we got a walkthrough for Standard & Poor's there. And I think I have the screen. Here's the company financial screen for that here. And Standard & Poor's also is going to have some context. So that's a nice thing with some analysis. So you can obviously you can download all this stuff to different things like Excel, but if you want some numbers, we got your numbers there. Okay, so this is I think the main page for a lot of y'all. And let's talk a little bit about articles. The number one thing is, actually, you know what? Let me do suggested database, my bad. This is the one that you want. One of the challenges you'll face is which databases do I use? I would suggest to spend a lot of your time on Business Source Complete. That'll be a good one. Can't go wrong with that. ABI Inform. Really, I would say maybe the first two things under suggested databases. You have other options under economics and finance. I might add a little bit to this. If you remember, the main library page has a central search box. We'll touch on that a little bit, but that searches everything we have, and in my opinion, it's too much. So you don't want stuff that uses your keywords but is about biology or history. You need to get that stuff out of there. So if you use ABI Inform, Business Source Complete, this will be more to the point of what you're looking for. So I wanted to show you a couple different keyword tricks on this. I'm going to go to Business Source Complete, and I have this pre-done tab up here. Look in that box. I've got Knowledge Management N5 Industry. It's a sample search. If you're searching a phrase like knowledge management or information technology, you probably want to put quotations around it to keep it together. And this particular interface, you use the N5. It could be a different number. And then another word. That means industry has to occur within 5 words of knowledge management, okay? Change it to 6 or 7 depending. And that way you're getting a little bit more narrow in your results. And sometimes it's searching throughout the entire body of the text, so you'll probably see it reflected in the title, but not necessarily. And you will, you can see like number 5, we could have put like car industry, something like that. It's got service industry here, but that way you're a little bit more focused. No surprise here, to get the entire article, you do PDF full text. It's going to come up. You can save it in the folder. Make sure that you have to create another sign in, I know. And then you can save it in this folder. Don't just add it to the folder and leave. You have to make sure you're signed in. You can save it to, I think that's Google Drive. I do that a lot. Email, try your luck on that. Sometimes email gets overloaded. But that's how you want to keep track of stuff. Also, you probably remember this. I think it's pretty common knowledge by now. Most of these databases will have a cite button, okay? So I hit the cite. I was over on the right side of the screen. And you got the different systems here. APA and MLA, I hear that a lot. MLA is down there, APA. And you can just cut and paste that in. So makes your life a little bit easier. So those are some of the highlights I would suggest from this guide. There's going to be some other things briefly on finding better articles. This may apply to you or may not. If you get too many results back in your search, there's a way to find out how many times something has been cited and those are usually the most influential articles. So I have a walkthrough here in the central box that tells you how to do that, and then a link to the databases that will enable you to do that, and a few other resources. Dissertation and theses, full text. You can, not just stuff done here, but other schools, you can go back and look at their works cited page. If someone wrote a PhD that's on exactly the same topic as you're doing. And this is just building on other people's research. Perfectly fine way to get started in case you're overwhelmed. Annual reviews are bibliographic essays on topics. It tells you which articles matter. Because you walk up to some of these databases, you type in a pretty good search, and there's still 1,200 things, right? So this is one way to get more focused results. I did include a tab called Business News, and ABI Inform is good for that, of course. And I have a link to that. It's probably a little bit too much, but that's sort of the basic operation of this. And I hope I made this guide clear enough that everything just falls into place for you. There's schedule a research appointment over here in case you need to talk to me. And I would prefer drop-ins, but in real life I have to do it this way because there's 38,000 people and I don't want anybody to not get their personal time. So this is a good thing for you to fill out. Okay, so I highly recommend you use this guide. It's going to have the focus that you need to do your work. And there's my chat button over there. You can email me, and that's what I looked like 7 years ago. So I think you're going to really enjoy this class. Please contact me if you have any questions about anything. Helping graduate students is my favorite thing to do, absolutely. So good luck with your research.